Hello everyone, Derek Stam Toys, and we are back with another action figure review. Today we've got the Unmatched Series 11 Darby Allin, and well, I'm not gonna lie, I'm fairly excited to get into this. I do love the pink jacket that he has on in the packaging and all that. I can't remember what the exact attire is, though this figure has been out for quite a minute now. As you can tell by the bottom of the box, that was the very first Will Ospreay we ever got, and well, I just did a review on the Supreme Will Ospreay that just recently came out as of early October, so yeah, that's kind of really crazy to think that here we are, Unmatched Series 11, we've got bare-armed Will. He doesn't even have a tattoo yet, and then not even that much further down, we then get the Supreme Will. Hopefully we'll see a Supreme Danielson at some point. Would love to see that. Maybe even a Supreme Darby would be cool. There's a lot of people who I feel should get Supremes, and maybe one of these days I'll make a top 10 figures I think should get Supremes, even though there's rumors going around that Jazzwares might not have the license or something like that to make AEW figures. I don't know. Hopefully that's not the case, because I do love my AEW figures. Despite the fact that sometimes they may come in a little wonky, I guess you could say, like Luchasaurus or Kazarian or the first edition of Pac. Just, the lower leg issues with some figures, or the staining, and there's a lot of issues that they could upgrade on, but I don't feel like they should just have the license stripped of them just yet. But I digress. Either way, why don't we get into this Darby Allin action figure review and take Darby out of his plastic prison now, shall we? Alrighty, you guys, so now that we have the Darby out of his plastic prison, we can go over the Darby Allin, but most importantly, we can go over all of his accessories, which he does not come with a whole lot. Kind of shocking knowing that, you could have probably added any sort of weapon, like a bat, maybe even a little baggie of thumbtacks or some shit like that. You could have added anything with him, a skateboard nonetheless, even though he doesn't really come out with skateboards anymore. Just feels weird to only get this jacket as the accessory, but for how cheap I got this, because I'm not gonna lie, the seller who I got this off of practically let me steal this from him with how cheap he let me get this Darby. I paid less than retail for this Darby, which is kind of insane to think, because if you were to go on Ringside, buy this right now, even without using someone's discount code, with using someone's discount code, I guarantee this figure is probably still popping up at least about $20, depending on, if you use the, the priority shipping, because that, let me be honest, it does get to you a lot faster if you pay, an extra $3 or so, just to get the priority shipping, but either way, it doesn't really matter. This jacket, at the end of the day, it does feel nice. I am enjoying it. I also just dropped it. There's a nice little collar piece there. It's all stained in black paint. It's almost like he just dumped a bucket of black paint over his jacket and was like, I'm rocking this today, and I fuck with it. I'm not gonna lie. I'd rock that jacket out in public. But either way, I digress. Since that was the only accessory, now we can get into this Darby, and well, of course, with a new Darby, it does come with a new head scan, and 9 times out of 10, it's usually just a little bit redone on the face, but the whole face paint is unique here. I don't know if this was a special match that he had where he wore this paint or not. He's got a nice buzz cut on the mohawk there. Everything looking nice and clean in my opinion as far as the paint job and stuff here goes. Just really nice head scan from Darby. I love the new chain here, as well as this is definitely newer compared to the other ones on his other figures. This one's a really nice silver color. I want to say all the other ones, yeah, they are silver, but this is an actual metallic chain, as where the other ones are just kind of almost a matte look. But yeah, with that being said, we also got all this body paint that's on the figure, like here on his chest, covering his chest tattoo a little bit there. You've got his Ain't Life Grand throat tattoo there, looking really nice and neat. You've got his whole sleeve here, except for a little detail on the thumb. I don't know if that's just mine in particular or what, but I can't really say I'm complaining too much. I'm loving to see the sleeve done here in full though, because you've got a lot more compared to the last Darby that was released, if I recall correctly, here on this sleeve. At least the last one I have only has the skull itself, the fucking arm bone. It doesn't really have all the extra details that this one does. So, always happy to see that, because Darby Allin, I feel like, gets tattoos every other week, so to not have an updated Darby Allin is just, it's sinful at this rate. It really is. Got all the nice back tattoo detail there. Sad to see that it does not continue up into the little crevice piece here, because I feel like that would have been a nice little touch, just so if you do this, it doesn't break off, but I don't care that much. I almost said I digress, which I mean, realistically, I do digress. I digress a lot here. You got the drug on the one hand. Of course, it does say free on this hand, but he's also got the skeleton fingers. You got some nice black cut-off shorts here with a little bit of white designing. I don't know what Darby's been doing with his pants, if those are the appropriate designs. I'm sure they're completely accurate to the figure. Don't play into my joke a little too much if it went over your head there. But you got a little bit of studding here in the front, but it does not wrap around the whole leg. Kind of shocked to see that it doesn't, though, if that's how it was in real life. Not too shocked, I guess. And then, of course, he's got his Doc Martens, if I recall correctly. Those are Doc Martens, right? And yeah, I mean, Darby is pretty much Darbying right now. Of course, all the updated detail is really nice to see. But one thing that is kind of nice and kind of not nice to see is the fact that if you take, well, I don't have all of them, but if you take most of his early releases here, so this one that I was just talking about, I want to say this was one of the last releases of Darby we've gotten. We've got this version of Darby here, if I can get him posed up well enough so he'll stand, because I was actually posing this figure around for some shots with Samoa Joseph, my new AEW figure I opened before this one came in. So if you can't tell, we've got his first ever AEW figure, the ringside exclusive Darby. We've got the Unrivaled Series 13, if I recall correctly. And then we've got the new Unrivaled Series 11 Darby, which, it's crazy to think how different his look slowly becomes as time goes on. Because, here, he only had this little chest tattoo. He didn't even have the throat tattoo. He didn't have all the arm tats. He didn't even really have all the back tattoos either. He just had the Relentless back tattoo or upper shoulder tattoo. This one, you get the tattoo on the arm. You get no tattoo on the back except for the Relentless, and that's it. Oh, actually, no, he didn't have the throat tattoo here either. And then this one, you get the throat tattoo, but it's kind of partially covered up by the face paint. Get the back tattoo. Get the arm tattoo, but not fully updated like it is nowadays. And then this one here is fully updated as far as tattoos go, if I'm aware of. But that doesn't really matter. What does, though, is the fact that all of these figures have well, all the older ones have the same skin tone, but this new one actually has a more updated skin tone. So, kind of sad to see that because then it makes swapping heads around and stuff a little lackluster. Because, now Darby, on, like, say if I wanted to use this head scan, will look a little weird on a completely different skin tone body. Maybe it's just me, I don't know, but I don't know. That kind of stuff does bother me, even if it is accurate. But as you can tell, we've got Sting set up in the back now. Kind of a nice little comparison amongst all the Darby Allins and stuff like that. And well, I mean, why don't we get Darby all posed up in his final pose and we can rank this figure on a scale of 1 to 10. Alrighty, you guys, it may be a little bit basic of a pose here, but we've got Darby Allin crouching down in front of Sting. Maybe they just got done entering into the arena to, Seek and Destroy by Metallica or something cool like that. And all I can really say when it comes to this Darby Allin is honestly this may be one of the better Darby Allins out there. I'm not gonna say it just because it's new, but honestly the posability on this one compared to the 3 that I have, I feel like this one might just be the stiffest one I've ever had, which sounds a little weird, no diddy on that, but the legs actually do not feel like too loose to where maybe they may not hold a pose. Even though, yeah, he's got really skinny legs, the knees don't feel like they could easily break off anymore. This might be one of the better posing Darby Allins, and of course, as time goes on, I'm sure, as long as we keep getting these AEW Jazzwares figures, this Darby Allin, he's just going to keep getting improved and getting better and better and better as time goes on, and maybe we'll eventually get, like, a Supreme Darby Allin where we get 2 different gears, and I don't know, I mean, that might be a little hard because he makes everything, like, super unique. But like a modern day Supreme Darby where we maybe get like a couple of unique jackets, some like cool weapon accessories and stuff like that. You don't even have to give us the 2 gears, just give us like enough accessories to where not having 2 gears is actually worth it. Because I don't know, did they? I mean, they did technically do that with this Sting. They gave us like 3 t-shirts and a cloth jacket, or 2 t-shirts and a cloth jacket, and the bat, and 3 different interchangeable heads, if I recall correctly. And just this Sting is actually kind of a perfect example of someone where you can't really give them multiple attires, but you kind of can at the same time. And it'll work out as long as you give them enough accessories. Either way, on a scale of 1 to 10, what would I rank this figure? Well, between posability and everything else in between, I am honestly going to give this Darby a good solid 8.5 out of 10. The only reason why I say 8.5 is because personally I feel like we were lacking a little bit on the accessory game here. We could have gotten some extra hands. We could have at least gotten maybe like an extra head scan that isn't just him like all pissy looking. But you know what? I'm not too mad at that, as Darby Allin is the kind of guy who would probably walk around with a pissy attitude all day backstage, even though, let's be honest, he's probably one of the more chiller guys outside of the ring from what it appears to be. I don't know. I could get that vibe from Darby that he would look like that all day. I don't know. Either way, I feel like the 8.5 is kind of justified there. The jacket, yes, is a super nice accessory, but we could have at least gotten an extra head scan. That would have been nice enough to where we're not talking about it here. And I mean, you know, one thing I did just think about, we technically did get 2 different hands. Why couldn't we have just gotten an extra set to match those hands so we could have 2 mic holding hands and 2 grapple hands, or whatever the fuck you want to call them. Either way, there's many things I'm sure I could say to explain it, But that's not what we're here for. I did the 1 to 10 ranking. Why don't we do the good old Dave Meltzer star scale ranking, the good old 1 to Young Buck match. I gave him a good solid 8.5 out of 10, so it only serves me right to give him a good solid 4 out of 5 stars. And yeah, I guess with all that enough said, we're gonna start closing out the video. So if you guys liked the video, feel free to like the video. But if you guys did not like the video, well, womp womp, I guess. But if you guys did like the video, feel free to go check out some of my other action figure content. We do plenty, and I mean plenty of different things as far as, reviews go. We'll show you here. We've got reviews going on here. We've got pick fed stuff going on here. We've got plenty of different stuff. If you go through and look, I'm sure you'll find something that may interest you, from unboxings and all that kind of stuff. One thing I did just think about too, if I can pull it up here quickly, would be the fact that, I do also have playlists. I don't tend to show these off too often here, but we've got one strictly for the pig fed. We constantly keep this one up to date. We've got some unboxings here. We've got all of the action figure reviews for the most part. We've got some that are missing and not in there just yet. It's because sometimes I just tend to forget for the figure reviews, because I do like 3 of them in one sitting. But maybe one of these days I'll start getting better with that now, huh? Either way, that doesn't matter whether you do or don't end up checking out something. That's fine by me. I'm just happy you stuck around this long. But if you guys currently aren't already, maybe if you could, feel free to subscribe. After all, it is free to subscribe. We are currently on the road to 500 subscribers, which is kind of crazy to think. 1,000 subscribers. I didn't think my content was decent enough, if I'm gonna be fair. But yeah, we are currently sitting at 444. Pretty neat shit there. So thank you guys who are already currently subscribed, and to those of you who aren't, maybe feel free to do that. At the end of the day, it helps me out reaching the next big goal in my channel's history, I guess you could say. And then on top of that, with us slowly approaching Halloween, I'm not sure if you would know, but for those of you who are new, we are approaching my birthday month, which is kind of great. I'm excited to see that. And I say it like that because I'm hoping that if I have everything planned out right, maybe I'll be able to do like a small birthday unboxing, or maybe I'll go all out and get like a really expensive figure that I want to get my hands on, but sadly at the end of the day I was never able to, and now it's like super expensive on the market. I don't know, we'll figure something out there. But either way, have a good rest of your day, night, evening, whatever the case may be. I don't know, because I'm not in your time zone, but if I were, would I be excited? Maybe I'd, be able to go to bed, but I'm too wound the fuck up, if we're gonna be quite frank there. Either way, deuces, ooses, yay.